Stephanie Kidd. I work for the Kentucky Valley Educational Co-op. I'm an Achievement Gap Specialist for Mathematics. Today I'm going to talk about how to use games to build fluency and conceptual understanding. Most of the games that I've got today came from building conceptual understanding and fluency through games from the North Carolina Standards Courses of Study in Mathematics. You can find these games on their website in North Carolina. It's educational. So I will provide that link at the end. Thank you. Our first thing that we're going to talk about with these games is parts of a whole. Now, parts of a whole is a really good game, and it basically gets our students to understand the beginning of multiplication, multiplying of a whole number by a fraction. And so I really like this game because of the multiple things that we can do with this game and how that you can do it now. So the instructions for this game is basically that you have two players, and the rules are that you roll a whole number dice. And like I said, that dice can be multiple things. You don't have to have it to be just one thing, but that's a whole number dice like this one right here. And what I want you to think about during that time is that they're rolling this dice. It can be this way. It can also be one that you've made up. So it doesn't have to be one that is just for whole numbers or regular dice. It could be one that's got 0 to 1, 2, 4, those kind of things. So keep that in mind when you're doing this, that they can be that. The next thing that you need, of course, is the fraction spinner. Now, this fraction spinner here is easily done. What you can do is, right here in the center of it, put you right there in the center, put your pencil, and then you can have a paper clip and you can spin it around. That's what you can do. So think about it that way, and that's one of the easier ways for you to be able to have a spinner. Just cards, and they shuffle them up and they put them together. Now, I like this because everything is already in the packet to print off, except for the die, of course. And then it also gives you these wonderful little stars so the students can get the stars when they're done. So the point is, you get a star if your product is more than 1. If it's not more than 1, you don't get a star. But you still have to work out the problem. I like that it has a recording sheet. So what they roll, what they spin is all there. So that's important for us. What they roll and what they spin is there. Now, with that in mind, it also comes with multiples of fractions. So fraction circles. Now, if you have the fraction circles in your classroom, they could use those and just build. But this way, they're getting the fraction circles, and like I said, they've got multiple ones, and they can just do that. So today, instead of using the spinner, which we could have used, I'm going to use just the cards, the fraction cards, and so we can see kind of what that's like. So we're going to have fraction cards. I think I actually got a star in those, but just mix them up. And they're going to do this. Like I said, I like these because the students can actually draw on these if they need to. And we'll talk about that too. So, first of all, I'm going to roll my dice like it says. Oh, I got 4. So I'm going to record it. So I'm going to record 4. And so that's my whole number. And then I'm going to draw a half. So this says I'm going to have 4 groups of a half. Now, I can go through and find my halves. You would need a bunch of these, but if I did 4 groups of a half, I'd have 4 of these, and I don't have 4 of those, but I do have, I can use for halves, this and this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these down here below it. And I'm going to say, okay, if I had 4 groups of 1/2, have 4 groups of 1/2, and I can actually put these together. Like this will make a whole, this would make a whole, so my answer would be 2. So it would, for this one it says the equation is 4 times 1/2, and it would equal 2. And so my students could actually do that, or it would equal 4 over 2. And that would equal 2, and they could see how that would be that. 4 over halves. I got 4 halves. And so that's important for our students to see and how they can put those together. If you see how I put them together down here, I guess go ahead and put those together and then they can have the 4 halves. Again, they can use the spinner. They can use the cards. They can use the die. You can have a dice that you've made up on your own. That'll way the students, if they have trouble with certain multiplication, they don't have to worry about those. You can make one up that had 0, and understanding that you can't have 0. But you have 1s, 2s, if they're really proficient maybe with their 3s or their 4s, but then you know they've got their 5s, and then maybe you just put another 2 on there. Or you put a 10 on there because they're proficient with 10. Those are the kind of things that you may want to do, just so that this is just a good game to play for them to get that understanding of parts of a whole, and your whole is your dice always. So like I said, and it's good that, oh, I've got, mine's more than 1, so here we go. So let's do another one, and I'm gonna just find a different one here. We're gonna use this one. We're gonna use 1/6. I want to roll real quick. Well, look at there. It would have been a 1. So now I've got 4. So I've got 4 and 1/6. Apparently 4 is gonna be my lucky number there. And I'm gonna say 4 times 1/6. So I got 4 groups of 1/6, and I've got 6 here. I can do. Let's see. Is there another one here? It's a 1/6. No. This one is. No, I don't think I have another one, but I can always make one into 6s. Let's do that real quick. I'm gonna make one into 6s. If your kids get real creative, they can do this too. Sometimes you'll have that one child who's very creative and they're like, oh, I'm gonna just break this one down and it'll make 6s. So if we do this, we got 1/6, and we know that we're going to have 1/6 here, 1/6 here, 1/6 here, and 1/6 here. And then what I can do is I can say I'm going to transfer this one to here. That one's gone. I turn it over. Transfer this one. That one's gone. Turn it over. Transfer this one. That one's gone. Turn it over. And then what do I have? I have 4/6. Which is also, I can start talking to the students. If you know it's an even number, let's divide this into groups of 2. So this is a group, this is a group, or if they notice this real quick, these two can go together and they're on this side. So I can actually move this to over here. And now I can erase this one. And look what I've got. I've got 2/3. And so they can start to see that 2/3, they can start seeing how they can reduce the fractions. And I really like that. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next one, and I think you're going to really like that one. So let's move on. Okay, so this one that we're getting ready to do is called the greatest product. Now, I like the greatest product for multiple reasons. One is it's real simple. Only thing they need is a deck of cards. The other thing they need is grid paper and some colored pencils. So, like I said, simple, easy, but yet you can have multiple players playing at a time. Now, with this one, basically what you're going to do is you're going to have a deck of cards. You're just going to have the numbers. I use the ace as a 1, and I'm going to go through and I'm just going to lay down some cards. So, let's say I've got two 5ths for 1, and then I've got 3 4s for the other. So all I have to do is I'm going to multiply these. So I've got 2 5ths, 3 4ths, and I think of the multiple combinations that your kids can have just by shuffling up a deck of cards, numbers, aces through the 9s, and there, or even the 10s. So you can put the 10s in there. Think about just shuffling those up and the combinations I can get by just laying them out. Now you can have a little board if you need it that has numerator, denominator, numerator, denominator, has a little multiplication sign in the middle, and they can lay those on there so that they're creating it. Now, they can move those around. Remember, it's up to the student. Move them around to make it a little bit easier if they wanted to create a problem, but they don't have to, or you can make it very strict and say how the cards fall is how the cards fall, and you have to do that. That's going to get into a little bit more difficulty due to the fact that you may have 5/2 instead of 2/5. If the students can't move it around, just keep that in mind. And we just want them to really be practicing at this point, because keep that in mind, they're practicing. So it's real important for us to make sure that we're doing what's best for our students in the long run. But I usually let my students mix them back up if they want to. Now, if they want to get real creative and have a harder problem, maybe that's one of those times where that can be a show. And especially if they've got it right, they've got that good conversation going with you. Let that be a time when they can show the other students what they came up with. So in this case, we're going to use, what I teach my students is we're going to use the denominator, and we're going to create a box with those. So it would be 5 across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then down would be, of course, using the numerator, 1, 2, 3, 4. This lets them start to be able to see this. So we're just going to draw in this box. This is my box, and I'll probably have them to label it below it. So if I'm drawing in my box, I'm labeling below it. I'm going to label in down here at the bottom what I'm actually 2/5 times 3/4. That way I can see it and I know what they're doing. I like this because recording sheets are so important for our students to be able to show what they're doing and how it kind of keeps them accountable. So if I'm doing 2/5, I'm going to do 2/5 this way because there's 5 lines. So this is 1/5, this is 2/5, and they can color in the whole thing if they want to. That's something they can do. Or they can just draw lines. Depends on the student sometimes. It's a little bit quicker for them if they just draw the lines. And then this one, they're going to go, as it's 4s, they're going to color in 3 of the 4 lines. Now, what I tell them is where you see both colors combined is where you want, is what you're going to count for your answer. So where I see both colors combined, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now I've got 6, and then out of how many total blocks? 20. Now, can I reduce this? Is what I ask my students. I said, is there a way to reduce this? Do you know if you can? Reduce it. Can I reduce it because of the 2s? Can I do groups of 2s? Well, if I do groups of 2s, and this is a group of 2 here, that's extra. What can I say? There's 1, 2, 3 groups of 2s, right? So how many total groups of 2s do I have? Well, I have 10, and they can look at it that way. So different ways that they can do this game. But like I said, I really like the fact that it's easy materials to get to. It's very low prep. One thing they need is a sheet of paper, 2 colored pencils, and they can share the 2 colored pencils if needed. I know during COVID you don't want them sharing things, and a deck of cards, and a deck of cards is really cheap. So that's real important for our students. My email is provided if you would like to holler at me later.